Welcome one and all to Umami Manga. I'm Petter and this is James.
Hello!
And today we're talking about volumes 15 and 16 of Vinland Saga. This new story arc in the manga is off to a great start in my opinion, and I'll say this is my favorite book in the series so far.
Really?
I'll even say with this book, well, having read this book now, I'll say my new rating, like my score for Vinland Saga as a whole, has risen to a 10 out of 10 for me.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Dang. So, I like this book a lot.
Uh-huh.
I don't think I feel like it's a lot of setup for, obviously, this new arc.
Yeah.
So, for me, it's not as strong as, say, book 6, which I feel like is the peak so far for me.
That's totally fair.
But again, this is a solid entry, and I like the characters that it introduced, as we'll talk about, and kind of gave some perspectives that the story was missing a bit, I felt like. So, yeah, it's nice to be able to get that here, and it's definitely really good. And I'm excited to keep going.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'll also say, before we get into the character discussions, I'll also say that it seems like this arc that we have ahead of us now is going to be somewhat of a travel log, kind of.
Yeah.
If that is the case, I think that is awesome, because I've always, well, all my life, I've always really been a sucker for travel fiction. So I think, yeah, I have some high hopes for this arc.
I did not expect them to go east. Like, they were already in Iceland. So I just, for some reason, I thought that most of their travel would be towards the west and not, well, okay, maybe England or maybe they would go back to Denmark for something, but they're going past that supposedly. So yeah, it's quite shocking, but I'm also relieved that we get this kind of travel journey before they make the incredibly difficult journey to the west.
Absolutely.
And I think it gets the potential to bring back some characters that we thought, well, at least I was very confused how they could possibly come back into the story ever.
True.
If they were never to leave Iceland or come back to like Denmark or something like that. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah. That honestly, that's not something I ever really thought of, but definitely, like, yeah, giving them some extra time here could give us the chance to reunite with previous characters.
Yeah.
So
Like,
yeah.
the potential is there now versus before. It just, like, I don't know, like, could they?
Right. Yeah. No, that's cool. I like that. But I think one of my speculations. I wouldn't call it a prediction, but one of my speculations last time, I think, was that, well, what if one of the obstacles that comes before Vinland leads them into mainland Europe, and it seems like at least that's the
Oh, did you
destination
really
right
say
now.
that?
I
Dang.
think I mentioned something along those lines, but yeah. So
You totally called it.
I also have been talking, I think, about, and this hasn't been a speculation, but I have been talking about, when I've talked about, well, the historical Vikings, and how some Vikings, or, well, it was pretty popular for some of the merchant Vikings to go and do trade in present day Istanbul.
Turkey.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is actually the same place where they're heading now.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. Like this place, Miklagard, where they're going, is just the old name of Istanbul today. So that I think it's gonna be really cool to see that in the story, or at least, well, I'll just make clear. I don't know if Miklagard is like what everyone called that place back then, or if it was just like what the Vikings called that place back then. I don't know, because it sounds to me Miklagard, or maybe Miklagård. It sounds kind of Nordic to me. Although I can't say for sure. I haven't looked this up, but just wanted to make that disclaimer.
But no, I think it's really cool that it's kind of addressing another part of Viking history, in that
Totally.
they, in fact, were a lot of traders. I mean, traders. Make
Yes.
sure, emphasize that for our terrible English pronunciations. But yeah, Vikings, or I guess I should say the Nordics. They weren't just pillagers. The explorers, the traders, and that was
Right.
probably mostly what they did was that kind of stuff. And then the pillaging was, I guess, just a summer thing.
It's what they've become known for, sadly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of violence. So it kind of makes an impact. But anyway, yeah, so it's great that we get this aspect of it. I'm so excited to see how Thorfinn and his group grows.
Definitely. Oh yes, I'm super excited. But let's get into the characters, starting with Thorfinn. Well, his appearance got a bit of an upgrade by Ylva at the beginning of this. Or, well, if I guess upgrade is...
debatable.
I mean, depends on who you ask, I guess. But
I don't think it's a downgrade.
I thought it was an upgrade, personally.
Yeah. I mean, being a person of long hair, I kind of was like, oh, it's sad to miss out on that representation. No,
yeah. True. Yeah, you and I both have pretty long hair. But
right?
I think
yours might be longer, but...
Well, I think I agreed with Ylva about the beard, though. I think he looked better without it, personally.
I could agree with that. And Einar makes him feel better by saying you look, you kind of look more friendly that way.
Yeah.
Less scary.
True.
And it's definitely true. And I think he rocks it. It takes a little getting used to after seeing him with longer hair for, a good arc or so.
Right.
I mean, he's kind of had long-ish hair his whole time that we've seen him, except for the childhood.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. His haircut now is kind of similar to as when he was 6. It's kind of plus he's clean shaven again. So he's basically the same as he was when he was 6, just bigger.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool. Like, he has one design for each arc so far. I kind of like that. Oh. It's easy to kind of distinguish the arcs by just looking at what Thorfinn looks like.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
One thing I thought was really interesting and kind of cool, honestly, of Thorfinn was how he reacted and acted when Halfdan tried to humiliate him, by having him kiss his boot. He just didn't understand that it was humiliating.
You're right.
I really enjoyed that part. Like, it's just a really cool mindset of him to kind of, or maybe he was just dumb about, he just didn't understand it. Like, I think that is it. Like, he wasn't trying to act a certain way. He just didn't see how that was, how bad that was, I guess.
He has no pride to lose. Like, I mean, if you think about it, in the grand scheme of things, is that really that bad? Like,
you're right.
For a person's pride, I get, and your image, sure. But to Thorfinn, those kind of things don't matter, especially having been a slave, and also his current mentality. It's like things that really don't matter to him.
Yeah.
So it kind of was fascinating commentary on pride and how we value it versus how far should we value it.
Absolutely, yeah. Right. And a thought came to mind for me that if he only had acted as if though he felt humiliated, he could have probably gotten that loan.
Yeah, yeah, I thought about that too. It's like, I wonder if he acted like it was a hard thing to do, I wonder. I mean, I think in the end, this deal that he kind of sort of has with Halfdan, selling the narwhal horns, I guess, I don't know if it would have worked if he had, acted like that, like it was hard to submit to his pride.
Right. I mean, if he had acted like it was hard, then Halfdan would have probably given him the loan and giving him just straight up money, so he wouldn't have to have taken this detour.
True. But I guess what I'm saying is that I think this detour is going to be important for Thorfinn. And it's probably better that this is happening versus it not ever happening. I don't know. Maybe what I'm saying doesn't make sense, but I guess I like this long way about it versus the short way.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. I definitely can. Yeah, going with those 24 narwhal horns to Greece, or present day Turkey technically. It's gonna be a fun journey or interesting journey.
Narwhals have always just mystified me.
Yeah,
there's just these creatures with these long horns. What? Why?
Swimming
how did
around.
Evolution? How did that work? I don't know. And they're so long too.
Right. Yeah. It's really cool.
It is very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised there's not more fantasy or lore surrounding them. I guess unicorn maybe, but I don't know if unicorns were ever.
Yeah, I wonder
inspired by narwhals.
Right. Exactly. I wonder if they actually were. I mean, if they are a Greek thing, which at least seems to be implied here, I actually don't know if.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Which mythology or folklore that they're from, but yeah, if they are Greek, then probably not, since I don't think, narwhals, at least the way they said it in the manga, that is more common in like the northern seas, kind of. But yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah,
I think Gudrid reminded Thorfinn a bit of himself when, or like a bit of himself when he was a child.
I agree.
In that, well, she wants to go on the boat with the men, just like he wanted to do when he was a kid, and she even tried to sneak on and hide, just like he actually successfully did as a kid.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, I think there's a big difference, and an important difference to note, that obviously Thorfinn was just a kid at the time, and there wasn't really anything to justify him going along with the men
Mm-hmm.
on the boat. Meanwhile, Gudrid, obviously, well, there isn't actually a good reason to prevent her from going along with them.
Yeah, she's an adult.
It's just like old customs that are preventing her, but that's just kind of silly.
So I said I agreed, but I actually think, or I'm not certain that Thorfinn made that connection. Maybe he did, and I think that'd be cool of him to do so.
Hmm.
Although it would be nice if he acknowledges that, hey, I was once like you as well. But I did notice that comparison between the two, where when they were both children, they really wanted to ride with Leif Erikson.
Right, true. As children, both did. Yeah, you're right.
Uh-huh. And Leif both promised them that when they were older they would.
Yeah.
One he was probably a little more truthful about than the other,
Right. Yeah.
unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it is kind of it was neat to see that comparison.
Yeah, and I think even though there is a difference, as I mentioned, being a child obviously doesn't, like, you shouldn't go along if you're a child, but being a woman is no reason to not go along.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that big difference comparing, quote unquote present day Gudrid to child Thorfinn. That said, though, I think Thorfinn can still, like, the feelings that Thorfinn felt as a child, I think, are still similar to what Gudrid felt during this or during this book.
Mm-hmm.
The feeling of, feeling like you're mistreated or not getting the respect that you think you deserve, is still, I think, the same. So I think in that sense he understands how she feels, and so when he eventually, when he said that Gudrid should join the crew, I kind of just wanted to stand up and clap my hands, because I don't know, I thought it was just a really nice thing. Like, the fact that he stood up for her there was really, really good.
Yeah.
And I'm choosing to believe that it's because he can relate to the feelings that she's feeling.
Interesting. I don't know if I can go that far yet. I hope that maybe he realizes that at some point, or maybe he does, but I don't get the feeling that that is quite his motivation. I think his motivation is he, at every turn, is kind of questioning Norse society, or their society, and
Mm.
questioning the pride, and why you have to fight, and etc. And I think this is maybe another one where, yeah, why does someone who has the skills, why can't they go on a ship with us, just because they're a woman? Like, it
Right.
doesn't make sense.
Right. True.
Um,
True.
and I feel like, him being as compassionate, understanding like he is now, it made sense for his character. But I can definitely see. I mean, I think it's clear that there is that um, similarity between those two, and the only difference really being, well, besides personality, is Thorfinn's a guy, she's a woman. So,
Yeah.
but I did find it funny that, actually interesting, that Thorfinn was the one to always find Gudrid, hiding,
Oh yeah. Yeah. Right.
and not just in the barrel, but also just in the ship. Like, there's a moment where they say they're gonna go sailing, and then they do a cheer, and Gudrid's in the room like, "Oh, this is awkward," but she's like, "Yeah, don't forget, I'm not gonna stow away." She
Yeah.
does stow. She does try to stow away, but Thorfinn just happens to see her. No one else does, but Thorfinn did.
Right. Yeah.
But then also he did find her in her through her barrel disguise.
Yeah.
On a couple occasions.
That was funny. Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if, yeah, maybe he's just observant in general, or.
I think that, I mean,
Hmm.
his heightened skills from war, I think,
Right.
help him a lot. But it is interesting.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But more about Thorfinn. I love it. His face when this is going back to the beginning of the book.
Huh?
His face when Ilva suggests that he thinks about marriage. Mary.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
That was great.
I think this goes to my point in the previous discussion where I really think he's going to be awkward about this whole love romance thing.
Yeah.
It's just not anything that he's ever had any experience in. I don't think he's not interested per se. It's not.
Right.
I don't think it's on the forefront of his mind, but I think it's something that I don't know. It's just doesn't come natural to him. So it's gonna be fun to see if that does happen eventually.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm really excited to see stuff like that in the future coming volumes, and I think it makes sense because, well, throughout his life he hasn't really interacted with a whole lot of women.
Yeah.
He spent most of his life with Askeladd's crew, and those were all men.
Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
yeah, so yeah. I think it makes sense in that way.
Right.
He's a bit awkward.
But I think Ilva bringing that up kind of sets it up, especially in the reader's mind, that okay, maybe we're gonna start some sort of romance arc for Thorfinn eventually. Maybe.
Yes, I'm all for it. I mean, I've been mentioning it at least just kind of a little
True,
bit. I
you
think
have.
for like 2 volumes, I think already.
Yeah.
I've been wanting this, and finally, there's reason to think that there might be something somewhere with someone.
And he learned more about women.
Yeah, about milk. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, hey, that's not common knowledge, or not common knowledge is the wrong word. It's not like intuitive knowledge unless you're
That's
a girl.
true.
I imagine.
That's true.
Unless someone tells you or you learn about it in health class.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah. If you barely interacted with any women, but at some point in your life you've seen a woman breastfeed, then I guess it's natural to assume all women can just do that at any point in time. Yeah, fair. It's fair. I will say, Thorfinn is really not an intelligent guy, and I think he even admitted to that himself at some point. However, I think he's a very wise guy.
Yeah. Wise guy, huh?
Well, yeah, real wise guy. I didn't mean for it to come out that way.
No, I agree.
But in Dungeons and Dragons, he would have a high wisdom score, but not a high intelligence
Low
score.
intelligence.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I get what you're putting down.
Right. He's street smart, but not book smart.
Yeah.
I think.
And sometimes that's better.
Honestly, truly. He also talks about his father a little bit in this book and how his father always kept his sword around just in case.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Thorfinn will do the same or not?
I don't know. Like, he may take it as learning from his father's mistake, maybe.
Which mistake?
Well, mistake as in like maybe it was a mistake for him even to have a weapon to begin with.
Ah, okay, gotcha.
But I don't. But I also think he would respect his father's decision, just in what choices he made, and also his father's reputation was much greater than his own, so that probably came with a little more potential for danger.
Well, at this point, it's a little bit arguable because with
You
the
think
whole
so?
Karlsefni epithet that he received after fighting Thorkild, that seems to have been spread pretty far and wide.
True. But I don't think it's as
maybe not as much though.
That's what I'm saying. Like as is the troll of
Yeah, right. You're right. It's probably not quite there.
Right, but you never know, especially on a journey like this. Could the last resort become needed? I wonder, and just the way it's kind of hinted at that may become an option. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. It's like I don't want him to carry a sword.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, if he really, really, really needs to take that last resort at some point, he kind of, well, it's good to have a sword there. So, yeah, it's a hard one.
Yeah. And that bear, that knife that he used, Gudrid's knife, I don't yeah, that was not great. Like couldn't
Uh-huh.
it, if he had his daggers, maybe it could have been better. Like he could have like actually pierced the skull, or maybe not. I don't know.
True. Yeah, no, I imagine the daggers he used during those 16 years or so, I imagine those were, well, more better suited for that than Gudrid's knife that she carried.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I don't expect them to have to fight bears all the time. So
No.
maybe it's not needed. But
Hopefully
I don't
they
know.
won't be fighting too many more bears. Yeah. But I guess, well, speaking about the animals, I guess in general, Thorfinn being able to, calm down that dog,
Yeah, that was great.
that was a really sweet moment, I thought, and it kind of serves as proof of his ability to help others stay away from violence. Obviously,
Yeah.
this was not a human, but still, I think it kind of still speaks to that. Sadly, it didn't work as well on the bear, though, and we've seen him kind of help Einar with that before. Obviously, like in the previous
Hmm.
book, he was able to, well, help Einar kind of stray away from the path of violence, and so we know he definitely has that ability to some extent.
Hmm.
And so, what I'm really curious about on this topic is, oh well, obviously, well, with the cliffhanger of this book, how is he? Well, what's going to happen with Hild, and that whole
Hmm.
how is that going to resolve? Is he going to be able to talk her out of that, or, well, I'm not saying I don't expect him to die. Uh,
No,
you know,
no, come on.
but like, just in what way is that going to resolve? It's just something I'm
Yeah.
curious about, just kind of based on the fact that we know he has an ability to kind of steer away people from violence.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that she's also waiting to see his reaction, and because he doesn't retaliate, doesn't react, attack,
Mm.
maybe she doesn't fire or something like that, and maybe that's how he changes her in a way. I don't know, or she shoots and pray the baby doesn't get hit.
Exactly, he has the baby on his back.
Yeah,
That
not
is,
great.
I mean, she said those bolts or those arrows or whatever,
Yeah,
that like that they're really strong and that
yeah. I
they
mean,
break the bones of the
bear's
bear.
soul. Yeah.
Uh, I don't think he could take one of those. So yeah.
See, I get that's quite the cliffhanger, but
Oh yeah.
we shall see.
Yeah.
But speaking of the baby, I just want to mention that they end up picking up baby Carly, or
Hmm.
however it's supposed to be said,
Yeah. Well, see, I like
um,
that, I think.
in hope of finding it a new home.
Mm.
So definitely a turn that I wasn't expecting, to
Yeah.
pick up a baby.
Right.
But I guess it could be interesting for the future, and I guess I'll talk about that in potential predictions and whatnot later. But
Right. Well, a little bit on Carly, and I guess this is a
okay,
little bit go into predictions on Carly, to be fair. And if you want to join me, feel free to. But
sure.
uh, but I have a feeling Thorfinn's gonna end up keeping Carly and kind of raise him as his own son. Uh,
That's what I was wondering.
it's kind of my gut feeling about this whole thing,
Uh-huh.
because we've already seen Thorfinn being really sweet with Carly, on
Yeah.
several occasions. Even though, yeah, it was only like this last half of the second half of this book, kind of that whole thing. So yeah, I don't know. That's just my gut feeling about Carly. I think he's gonna stick around. He's gonna be raised by Thorfinn, if because I mean, I imagine time's gonna continue to pass throughout this series.
I just wonder if it's wise to bring a baby on a journey like this.
That's
You
true.
know,
Yeah.
I mean, people who immigrate to other countries or travel to, you know, when people were traveling to the New World,
Yeah.
they had babies, I guess,
Yeah.
but at the same time, this is a different kind of journey. It's not
Mm.
quite moving. You know what I mean? Like moving from home to home, a different home.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it would be great to see Thorfinn kind of adopt him as his son,
Right.
but I also wonder if he's going to feel comfortable still having the baby the whole way, and not being able to find a potential home for it. But we shall see.
We
We shall
shall
see.
indeed. I guess one last thing about on that topic that I want to say is that they had like the discussion about vengeance and kind of obligatory vengeance, and
Mm-hmm.
how Carly, when he grows up, would likely want to seek vengeance on the people who killed his family.
Hmm.
And I just think that if Carly would grow up with Thorfinn as his father, then that chance would be much lower, I think, of him wanting to seek out that vengeance.
That's very true. Very true.
So I think that could potentially lend to something beautiful further down the line, much further
Mm-hmm.
down the line.
Yeah.
But yeah. But a little bit more on the baby stuff. I think both Thorfinn and Einar both did really great during the diaper change thing, and also trying to figure out what the baby should eat and all that. They handled it really well. Uh,
Oh man.
in general, well, besides Thorfinn not knowing about how milk production works in women. But besides that, yeah, I think they handled that really well.
I am so glad I live in the 21st century.
Yeah,
I am so
yeah.
glad.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that scene really gave you like an understanding of just how hard that those sorts of things would be back
I
then.
mean, yeah, mothers have it rough, man. Like,
Yeah.
gosh. But different time, different era. Lack
Yeah.
of certain technologies and whatnot. But
Yeah. And if you don't know anything better, then I guess you just find yourself in it. And
right, you wouldn't know. You're just like, yeah, well, this is what you do.
right.
Better than not having anything covering all that junk up.
Uh-huh, for sure. Yeah. Anyway, back to Thorfinn. My last thing on Thorfinn for this book is I just in general I just want him to feel better. Like he's still having those nightmares. He's
Yeah.
still heavily burdened by the sins of his past, and he even
Hmm.
when they were kind of on the coast of Norway, and he was talking a little bit to Gudrid, he called himself a coward while smiling.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it's possible that he's putting up a facade to kind of in order to to fool even himself into thinking that he's fine, but he's really not
Hmm.
fine. So I think sooner or later he's gonna have to face all of that in order to get to actually get better. I really hope he does that, and I really hope he's able to get better eventually.
Yeah. You make a good point because someone who has accepted or has faced that, I guess, wouldn't still be having those nightmares
Right.
potentially.
Yeah, I think he. I mean, yeah, he definitely isn't feeling good.
But I don't know. I at the same time I feel like he's such change and he's able to laugh and he
True. I mean,
I
yeah,
I don't know.
that's
I
true.
feel like he's taken some great steps forward and he may not be fully there and obviously a big reason why he's doing all this is to atone for the mistakes he made in the past.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. Having those nightmares is not completely at peace with yourself and
Right.
and and your life and I guess sometimes people have regrets that they live with their whole lives, but I think with Hild coming into this situation and being an example of someone affected by Thorfinn's past,
Hmm.
Thorfinn could potentially gain some kind of forgiveness that he couldn't
Yeah.
obtain in a different kind of way. You
True.
know?
Right. Yeah. I definitely hope for something good to come of this. I mean, and I'm sure in some way it will. But yeah. Her appearance definitely kind of sets a lot of things in motions, kind of on that front.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see just how, because when she told that whole story, and then there's this page or this panel of Thorfinn's face reacting to
Right.
that, he's not doing well there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. For
Uh,
sure.
so yeah, hopefully he can work through it, maybe together with Hild in some sense.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's really exciting.
I don't have anything else on Thorfinn.
Me neither. Then let's move on to Gudrid, our beautiful Tern and the master of barrel flage. And I will say right away, I think I'm already starting to simp for her. She's just super super cool and cute, and I
Yeah.
and also like having like the dream of becoming a sailor and exploring the world. Uh, it's just so well, obviously for the time and being a woman and all, like it's a really cool thing because I really love the way she questions gender roles and she challenges the gender norms that way. It's just something I admire so much about her character. she has stolen my heart a little bit, honestly. And also one thing we talked about before, was it? I don't know if it was last time or two discussions ago on Vinland Saga, but we've talked about how Yukimura tends to draw a lot of the women very similarly. In fact, a lot of them have had, long blonde hair and kind of similar faces. Meanwhile, we got, and now we got Gudrid, who has short brown hair and
black.
Well, they say
black. The cover is a lie.
The cover
is a lie.
She's drawn with brown in the cover, and then the lady says black. But I was thinking maybe she didn't mean black when she said black.
No, it's black. I like black hair, so that's why.
I know you like black hair, but I don't think the cover is a lie. Is my thinking?
No, it has to be a lie.
No, because I feel I have a hard time believing any Scandinavian could have purely black, like pure black hair, like truly black. I just have a hard time seeing that. Kind of, it like at the darkest I can imagine like really dark brown. But anyway.
Enough about hair.
Did I mention her eyebrows? I really like her eyebrows. I think her eyebrows are also unique compared to the other women that Yukimura has drawn. So like her design in general, yeah, she's more easily recognizable compared to, as we said, like some of the other women all looked maybe a little too similar sometimes.
I think, yeah, I mean, you could definitely tell it's his style, but
well, yeah, for sure.
I think it helps that she has the short hair too.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I think the eyebrows are also like to me,
eyebrows help. I agree.
I thought were a pretty big thing as well. Anyway,
and I think she is very attractive. Like
yes, and she's oh my god, I love her so much. She's actually based on a real historical person.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
I knew of her before she appeared as a character here. Well, I knew of the historical person before she appeared as a character here, so that was kind of cool. And something I thought was an interesting little change that Yukimura seems to have done is that, well, at least according to all of the sources that I've found about her, well, where she was from, say that she was from Iceland. But the manga seems to imply that she's from Greenland. So I guess that's a creative liberty that Yukimura took. Although, I mean, we already know that this manga isn't perfectly historically accurate. Like,
no,
it never really was. But, yeah, I just thought I'd point that out.
I have questions, but let's talk about Gudrid more in depth before I ask those questions.
All right, let's do it. Yes.
Because the fact that she's an actual historical person, now my mind is kind of racing. But let's talk about Gudrid in Vinland Saga.
Will you remember the questions later?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Totally.
Okay. Cool.
Because it has deal with some of the questions I have.
All right then. Well, she managed to lift the ropes that Leif tested her with.
She's got to be pretty strong to do that. Like,
right? Yeah.
Ropes are really heavy. Like, especially those kind of ropes.
Bug-Eye said like he probably wouldn't be able to lift those.
Yeah. I mean, he's not like the epitome of strength, but still.
Well, yeah, you're right. But yeah, that was great to see that. I also want to add that when she was holding the ropes up, and she was just looking at Leif and like with this really really strained face expression, and she was like, "Leif, you see this?" And like, oh my, that probably was the biggest laugh I got from this book. Just that bit. Although the scene as a whole was definitely more serious, but just that little instance I thought was just really funny.
Yeah.
Man, Leif was a bit uncool, but I can understand, I guess, because of the times and stuff.
Yeah.
And like the society is the way it is, but it was still uncool of him.
For sure. I have more thoughts on that.
Right, yeah,
when we talk on Leif. But
True.
I do agree that it was really hard on Gudrid because of that. But I'm glad that she now is able to experience her dream, and I really do think people should be given the opportunity to. Well, one, I'm a component for people traveling and seeing the world and exploring, but also I think people should have that opportunity to dabble or really dive into something that they want to enjoy, like they want to experience.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not for them in the end. That's fine. But I think Gudrid really deserves to be out there exploring.
Absolutely. I truly think she is an explorer at heart. Like all her life, that's been her dream. And sure, she gets seasick at first, but that's natural,
Very natural.
you know.
Very natural.
But I really think this is her calling. I do think so. And well, about her kind of decide or her passion about that whole dream, we kind of saw as her wedding drew closer, she kind of started to kind of more and more kind of lose that drive, which I thought was really sad to see, like the drive to go with Leif on the ship and stuff. And then
basically giving up.
Right, yeah, more and more kind of going in that direction. And then, well, on the wedding and after right after the wedding, when she was with Sigurd in the bedroom, at that point in time, she had completely given up seemingly, which was just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Although subconsciously she was kind of, well, she still had like the fire in her. That was good. I love the part when she stabbed him in the leg, and then like follow with his natural reaction, and then slapping her, and by slapping her, the wig came off, and I think that was the real Gudrid that we saw there, like that that we could see when the wig came off, and I think kind of from that moment on, she starts to live with pride, kind of as herself. And yeah, like it's like a bit of a breaking point, that scene. And the moment that comes after that, at the beginning of volume 16, so like just past the halfway point of this book 8, the scene right before they leave Iceland, when they're talking at the docks, there's a page that I thought was really like, I would probably, like, if I'd say like my favorite page in this book, it would be this page, where like on the page is just 4 panels on top of each other with her talking, and you can really see how she transitions from, on the first panel, she's just kind of trying to laugh it all off, and then it just transitions to, by the end of it, she's breaking out in tears about the whole situation, and that got me really emotional, and I felt for her. At that point in time, I felt for her even more than I already did, and I already felt for her a lot, because obviously volume 15, with like every chapter was in some sense about her. It would she was the namesake of all of the chapters in volume 15.
Yeah.
And like, so I had already started to care a lot about her, but at that point I was like, oh no, Gudrid. And so obviously I was so happy when Thorfinn invited her to the crew right after that.
Absolutely. Her kind of little arc in that first volume is fantastic, I think, and just seeing her eventually get on the ship and realize her dream is I guess that happens in the second volume, but still, it's
right.
You really get an understanding for how tragic her situation is, and then getting that payoff in the next is pretty great.
Yeah, so great.
I like the line from her: "The world is vast, so how can my life be so limited?"
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really, it's a powerful line, but also gives you some time to think about that, I guess.
Absolutely, man.
I wonder how accurate that wedding ceremony was.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I wonder.
Because technically, she's married to Sigurd. Sigurd? Siggy?
Yeah, well, yeah, we can call him Siggy.
Yeah, so that's an interesting aspect, that she's a married woman.
Right. She is technically
Twice.
married. Yeah, right. Widowed and remarried.
Uh-huh.
Although Leif's brother that she was married to apparently was only like very short. Like he went with Leif to Vinland supposedly really quickly after they had gotten married. Like,
to me, that's, I don't know. It seems kind of, why did you get married in the first place?
Yeah,
like
bit strange. And she must have been really young at that point too.
Yeah, true.
Since she's 19 here. And
gosh, how old would she have been? Oh,
well, I mean, it could have been recently, I guess, or actually, I guess I don't.
Then how old would his brother have been?
I mean, it could have been a younger brother, like
yeah,
than
I
Leif.
guess a really younger brother.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know.
I get, if she was really young, I guess it would make sense why she hadn't, you know, gone all the way with her first husband.
Oh yeah, if she was really young, true.
Yeah. I don't know. I, whatever. In the past, it
Hmm.
happened. He died.
Yeah, like
Um,
that marriage with Leif's brother seems to have kind of not really meant much at all, kind of, since well, the implication was that he had left for Vinland really, really shortly after they had even gotten married. So
right.
like there doesn't seem like there had really been much there to begin with.
Like the only thing it did was make Gudrid part of Leif's family.
Right,
That's
exactly,
about it.
exactly, yeah.
Which, I
Which is
guess
a
it
good
does.
thing, yeah, right.
Right. Yeah. Turns
Mm,
out to be a pretty important plot point.
exactly. And obviously her relationship with Sigurd, well, doesn't really mean much to either of them technically. Like
Yeah.
on a real level, it doesn't really mean anything to either of them.
Right.
Something I thought was a little strange, honestly, was that I think Thorfinn, Bug Eyes, and Einar all refer to her as Gudri at some point.
Yeah.
Uh,
That was
which
that a spelling error?
at first I thought, like the first time I saw it, I thought it was, but then it came up like two more times at least,
Yeah.
and I figured I guess it's a nickname they gave her.
So Gudrid and then Gudri. Like, is it that hard to put the D at the end there?
Right.
Like maybe in Japanese, Gudrido.
Right.
Gudorido.
Like it
And
would
then
save
just
you a
doing the
syllable, kind
Gudri.
of.
Gudri. Yeah.
Yeah. But still, no, like, I still think it's kind of strange. Though, to be fair, I don't know how nicknames worked back in the Viking Age, so
Yeah.
maybe that was how you would shorten Gudrid, but it seems like a
I don't
weird way
know.
to shorten it.
What? So I'm curious. What do you think about her name? Like, because when I first saw it, I was like, Gudrid.
Hmm?
What? Like, is that a normal name?
It's,
Like, have you?
well, it's not. I don't think it, well, as a Scandinavian person, I don't think it's a strange name.
Uh
I
huh.
wouldn't say it's a common name, though.
Mm.
I don't. In fact, I may not have ever actually met a Gudrid, but it doesn't seem like when I hear it, it doesn't seem like a strange name to me. But
Mm.
I understand that that's because yeah, obviously it is from this area of the world, so I
Right.
would understand that for other people it would sound weird, maybe.
For an English speaker, it does sound a little almost. It kind of sounds harsh.
Mm.
Like not like if it was like a Udrid, like that sounds a
Oh,
little more.
ah.
I don't know. Pleasant to the ears. Where the Gudrid, like I don't know, like
I see. Well, the rid ending, or
uh
maybe, well, yeah, basically that ending, I think is a, or at least has been a relatively common ending of female names, I want to say.
oh okay.
We actually had another character in this book called Astrid, uh,
Oh yeah,
Halfdan's wife, and
yeah.
Astrid is today at least a name I've met people who has that name. I mean, my sister is called Astrid actually.
Oh,
So it's still around, that name.
I like that name. Like
Uh-huh.
it sounds pleasant.
It's a good name.
I'm not saying Gudrid is a terrible name. It's grown on me, but it was kind of like wait what? Like I guess it's just the goo part that gets me.
Well, so the first half of that name, Gud,
Good.
is our name, or is our word for God.
Whoa.
Uh, so so yeah, she kind of has God in her name.
So goddess, like god female, like female god, like
Well,
what?
I did a little bit of trying to see like kind of what her name could mean. I had and I found like I wasn't able to find like something like I wasn't able to find one single thing. Like it seemed different sources gave me a couple different answers, but I mean I
Hmm.
know that good means God. Like that is still today the word we use for God,
Hmm.
and that I'm assuming since this is a Viking Age name, uh, the God referred to isn't the Christian God, or but rather like,
No.
well, yeah, the several gods that existed in Norse mythology. But Rid could potentially come from the word rune, although have been like it's been changed up somehow according to
Huh.
some of the sources that I found, so like a god rune. Uh, but that's not something I can say with too much certainty. But yeah, anyway, yeah,
Gotcha.
that's just some stuff on her name.
Sorry, yeah, it just Well, that was fascinating to learn about, but also, yeah,
Mm.
my funny like kind of English ears seeing and then hearing the name is like, huh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Right. Right.
But I'm glad it's accurate to the movie. No, accurate to real life.
Yes, I mean, yeah, I mean the real Gudrid Thorbjörnadottir, from history, that was her name.
Oh well, yeah. Actually, that's not what I was implying. I was talking about like
Oh,
that's a name
ah,
that you could see being in Scandinavia somewhere. But
ah,
also yes, like it's an actual person. So
yeah.
here's what I'm going to ask. In terms of like potential ships, like do you just already know like what her life entails? And so are you allowed to kind of speculate about that kind of thing?
Uh, why do you have to ask these questions? Well,
Because
maybe.
okay,
Oh,
let me so
hmm?
let me give my perspective, and then you can either disagree or say or no comment.
Okay.
So I think Gudrid has been given a lot of backstory that parallels with Thorfinn. Obviously, they don't have the war whole thing going on like that similarity, but the wanting to explore, wanting to join Leif, and I guess kind of their mindsets that the way Norse go about their lives is kind of silly in some aspects and that they should be
Right.
changed.
Hmm.
They have that in common. But I don't know if I can say yet that I'm like, okay, I ship it. Like
Fair. Totally fair.
I like the fact that Thorfinn saw her as, the sailor or the person that she was and not just her gender.
Hmm.
I like that. I'm just not quite, like, I could. I could see like it becoming a ship or something that I would really like, but I need a little bit more sparks to fly or something
Hmm.
before I'm like, let's go, like, uh, let's start a family
Yeah, oh,
kind of a thing.
absolutely. Yeah, no, I totally understand all of your points there, and I think yeah, I'm with you completely on all of that. Um, One of the scenes that to me was a really important scene between her and Thorfinn
Mm-hmm.
was when they were putting Carly to sleep and they were having a kind of from the dialogue that they had in that scene, we understand that yeah, that she and Thorfinn have the same views on the Norsemen's obligatory violence. And
Yeah.
besides the fact that we understood in that conversation that they shared the same thoughts on that,
Mm-hmm.
that is also a topic that I hope will come back again because I thought it was interesting and I thought it wasn't quite resolved. There was still questions as to how to deal with it and how to kind of improve it from both sides. And so I think it would be interesting if the two of them would maybe pick up that discussion again at some point in the future and
Mm.
continue discussing those points.
Yeah. No, I agree.
But yeah, but anyway, yeah, that scene I think was a really sweet scene between the two of them, or a nice scene, I'd say, between the two of
Yeah.
them.
Nice scene. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, of course, shipping questions have to surface
Well, I
in
look
some
like we
sense.
said, the beginning of this book set up the fact that Thorfinn's at the age, well, I guess towards the end of the time to get married, back then, I guess.
Exactly, yeah.
Uh, so it's definitely something that's been brought up, and I think it's fair to start really thinking about. And one last thing I'll say, I think about Gudrid and just this book in general, I don't think I have anything else, is that it's nice to finally have some women who aren't slaves like in the story. I mean, yeah,
Yeah, dude, you're right.
we had Thorfinn's family, his mom and sister. That was great, but
Mm,
a long time, like, the women just have not been part of the story unless they were a slave in some aspect. And then
yeah.
there's, I guess, some other women here and there, but
Mm,
it's nice to have a woman who, I guess, lack of a better word, is a tomboy who it just behaves differently than everybody else. And then we have another woman at the end of this who's a hunter, and
right,
it's kind of a social outcast in a way.
right, right.
And so that's an interesting kind of turn that we didn't have in the previous one. So I'm glad it's not just a bunch of guys doing Viking things. There's actually some women here in the story too, and it just is refreshing.
I'm really happy for that as well. Definitely also something I thought about, and something I've been wanting. Well, I think both of us have been wanting more women to play important roles in the story. So this is great, and definitely seems like Gudrid is definitely here to stay for at least this arc. It definitely seems like, potentially even longer, hopefully longer. And Hild is, I guess, a little more uncertain, but I really hope she sticks around for a decent amount of time as well, because I think there's a lot of potential with her.
Right. I definitely would like her to join up with their gang.
Right.
Being like I said, kind of an outcast. That seems to be Thorfinn's goal, is to gather the outcasts and give them a home where they can find peace.
Right. Man, yeah, I'm so excited for the continuation of this arc. And Gudrid, as I said, man, I think she's super sweet and charming and cool and awesome. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of her.
Yeah, she's pretty cute.
Hell yeah. So, moving on to Leif Erikson next. The first time they mentioned Greece, well, he's the one to mention Greece when they're planning on going there. He refers to it as Greekland.
Oh.
Which to me was pretty cool because, well, at least in Swedish today, what we call Greece is Grekland. So it's I assume Greekland might be. I mean, it's really similar. Might have been what we said. Well, what we called it back in the day. So that's pretty cool. And then again the whole thing about Miklagard, whatever, being today's Constantinople, or not Constantinople, Istanbul. It was called Constantinople at some other point in time. But yeah, it's cool that that's their destination now. So definitely looking forward to that. If they're even gonna get there, to be fair, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know
what kind of twists and turns this arc is gonna take.
I definitely think it won't be a simple journey, but I kind of have confidence that they'll get there. I wonder, I'm glad that Leif is joining them, and it's great to see them on an adventure with Thorfinn and everything. It's great. But also, is he gonna make it? Yeah.
Right.
I say only, but in grand scheme of things, it's only going to be a 2-year journey at most.
Right.
At least if everything goes as planned.
Yeah.
So surely he can survive 2 years. I don't know. I still think it's funny that he's not going to go to see his wife. Like he's whatever.
Yeah.
The wife is like, I'm used to him not being around.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't really seem to be a family man in a lot of ways.
I mean, he works with his son.
That's adopted son
and son.
Did we know if that was his actual?
It's his son.
Okay.
He literally calls him Pops.
He does call him Pops.
They said that you have a son. He's like, true, I do have a son, but I never raised him.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. I guess that was my point about him not being much of a family man. It's like he seems to have left all of the raising the children or the son to his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Which is something interesting that Yukimura has kind of written about in some of his like little afterwards and or like those sorts of little messages that he writes between the volumes sometimes. How much respect he has for mothers and how strong they are and how they're able to raise women in such an amazing, incredible way.
And raise children, like
Did I not say children?
You said women.
Women. I don't know why.
Not just women, but the men too.
Yeah, no, I don't know why that word came out of my mouth. I definitely, I meant to say children. But yes, for sure. Women are great.
I guess that was a lesson that Leif had to learn the hard way. I don't know, like the whole. I understand why he did not want to allow Gudrid on the ship, and I think it's because of the kind of the situation. It maybe in general he probably would have been against allowing any sort of women on the ship, and being a sailor or whatnot. But especially in Gudrid's situation where she was being married for kind of a political move in a way. And the wedding was happening right then. And she had her duty as a woman to kind of uphold.
Yeah.
So I understand where he was coming from, but I think it's fair. Well, fair. I'm glad that he was able to see reason,
Right.
and in that, like of course she can go on the ship. She could do it just as well as most of the guys that are on the ship anyway. So, I think I'm glad he kind of accepted that, and he wasn't, all huffing puffing about the fact that she ended up being part of the crew.
Right. Yeah. Right.
He was open to it in the end.
Once it was decided, and once it was happening, he seemed to be pretty cool with it.
Right.
That is good. Actually, also something I'm kind of excited about regarding there was this kind of 2-page map we got to see kind of the planned route to Miklagard that they were going to take in the middle of the book, kind of, and obviously we don't know if they're going to be able to actually follow it precisely. However, what I think is kind of neat is that, assuming they do take that route, they're going to actually sail right by my city or at least where my city is today.
Ooh.
Because they're going to go right in the waters between Denmark and Sweden. Although at that point in time, southern Sweden belonged to Denmark. But today it's part of Sweden, and so it's the part where I live, and so it's right on the coast, and their route would go right by my coastal city where I live, or at where it is today. So that's kind of cool, and also it seems to be a pretty interesting route, like going through along rivers through Eastern Europe, to get down there, and then crossing the Black Sea kind of at the end before getting to Miklagard. I can imagine all of that being really exciting, assuming they do follow the route. So it should be fun. I'm just really excited for what are all the people they're gonna meet along the way, and all the threats they're gonna encounter.
Exactly.
And there's so much potential here.
Absolutely. Kind of speaking of maps, I love the moment where he's on the beach back in Gudrid's childhood.
Yeah.
And he's showcasing how vast the world is. I just love that moment.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, it's all east. Is there nothing west? He's like, oh, there's Vinland. And you don't actually see him draw it, but he draws the line, and you just the whole, and Gudrid just saying like the whole world could not fit on the beach. It was just an amazing moment. I loved it.
Yeah, it's really powerful, honestly.
And I guess I was just really impressed with Leif's abilities being showcased throughout the latter half of the book. How friendly he is with people, and how people really welcome him easily. And Thorfinn mentions that his abilities are just as good as a sword in a way.
Yeah, right.
Even better.
Right. Yeah. Every bit as great as the sword. And when he said that, because they were talking about Leif being so likable, and how that in and of itself is every bit as powerful as the sword. It brought my memory back to Volume 1 when Leif was telling the story, and all the kids were just kind of just making fun of him, saying that he wasn't a warrior, and he just all talk, and he's no good in a fight. But this moment definitely, because of, calling back to that for both of us, and for a lot of readers probably, it just really shows Thorfinn's new perspective in a really nice way.
Agreed. That's all I have on Leif.
Me as well. Anything on Einar? I actually didn't have anything noted down for him, but what about you?
Just very little things. I appreciate him supporting, or willing to support Thorfinn if he has to resort to the last resort.
Yeah, that was really sweet.
That was I think important for him to mention. And that he's the weak guy. When they go to Vinland.
Oh yeah, that's right. The wheat guy. Yeah, I thought he said the weak guy at first, and I was like, what?
No.
But yeah, the wheat. Yes.
And maybe bear guy, kind of.
The bear professor.
The bear professor. Struck out a few times there. That was an abnormal bear. All right, it was an abnormal titan.
Yes, exactly.
Abnormal bear.
yeah. He was great in this volume, but didn't have too much, I guess.
He didn't have
but,
much of a role though.
But he wasn't good. Still, yeah, just good stuff though.
Good support.
Yeah. Then let's talk about Halfdan. He's back, as you had feared.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny that I talked about him so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I guess some of my fears are justified, but now we're getting more of a kind of a nuanced take on him.
Absolutely.
Versus being just such a ruthless bad guy. They're using ruthless again. That's my favorite word, apparently.
I mean, I would say he's ruthless.
Yeah, but he also there's also this kind of sympathetic, or I don't know, maybe sympathy is not the right word, but he does seem to give these farmers who are in tough times a better life in a way by being in servitude, maybe not the right word, but being in debt, like being
like working under him in some sense.
Working under him, yeah.
So, right. Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, right. I mean, obviously he is gaining from it. Like he's benefiting off of it.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not like he's not doing it for their sake. I wouldn't say. I don't think. But it's still interesting though. Yeah, I agree with you. Like he as a villainous character has definitely become much more interesting than he was in volume 1 or book 1 at least.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. And how, I mean, he still has the chains and stuff. He still loves his chains. But
it's kind of weird.
But he also loves to humiliate others. And like that's it was a new little aspect of his villainy that we got here.
Yeah, definitely gets a kick out of it.
Right.
I wonder if this will be another example of too many riches ruining a man.
Ooh.
Like Kettle.
I like that.
I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna have King Canute come over here and try to take his land, but I wonder if something will go down that just ends up in his destruction is not the right word. Downfall.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that at all, but I could totally. Yeah, right. Especially coming out of the previous arc, I could definitely see that because I feel like that message was so strong in the previous arc, and I can definitely see that kind of remaining to an extent. Yeah. I love that. And yeah, because he even talks about wanting to have power in Vinland, and
right.
And, like
well,
that's the entire reason why the marriage is happening.
Exactly.
So, yeah, good idea.
And I guess the last thing. Okay, two things. So one, I like the whole imagery of the fetid turn and how he had the bird in his study, and Thorfinn brings it out as an example of, in this situation, the bird's going to choose freedom, not captivity.
Yeah.
Given the opportunity, and it was a pretty good analogy to Gudrid's situation.
Exactly. Yeah, I love it.
And really to how Halfdan goes about acquiring farmland and basically making the farmers serve him in a way.
Yeah.
While he thinks, or he's justifying it, saying that they'll be better in captivity or better in, with chains. In reality, people would choose freedom most of the time. Maybe it's not the same for everybody, but.
Right. No. Definitely. Yeah. Right. I think Yukimura has definitely managed to kind of, I guess, reshape this character into a much more complex and kind of interesting villain. Compared to how he was before. I mean, he wasn't bad before, but yeah, this is definitely much more interesting. Mm-hmm. But let's talk about his wife a bit, Astrid.
I know. I was going to say, his wife has so much sass. Astrid,
I love her. She was great. I didn't expect her character to really become what she became, kind of.
Yeah.
Although, to be fair, even from the first scene with her, she, or at least the way I'm choosing to interpret it, after having read this twice now, I sort of see it that in the first scene when she's talking to Halfdan, I think at that point she's already understanding Gudrid's feelings, like already.
I agree.
Like at that point. And so like she's trying to, I guess, subtly-ish, trying to persuade Halfdan to just call off the wedding at that point. by giving other reasons to like that would make him want to call it off. But obviously, after Gudrid left Iceland and they had the like they talked about it more in depth. Kind of, she kind of just speaks her mind, despite Halfdan telling her to be quiet, and she really just lectures him about how, like, the fault lies with him.
Right.
The fact that he's not respecting women essentially, and well, to be fair, he's not respecting anyone really. To be fair, but I imagine he respects women even less than men.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and that whole thing was really really well said of her, and like she had like I think she's a very wise person.
I like when we first see her and he brings up the reason. Well, I'm doing it so I can gain a connection with Leif. Like it's very important for my own gain.
Hmm.
And she's like, "Oh, well, was my marriage to you important? Marrying into a poor fisher farmer?" And he's just kind of silent. Like I would be surprised if he kind of started blushing, but he didn't. I don't think there's any like, red blush or anything. But it makes me think that Halfdan at one point maybe was not like this at all. And just over time, his riches have made him more, I guess, pessimistic in a way.
Right. Yeah.
You know, more eager to expand his growth. And when he met Astrid at first and asked to marry her, like he did it because of love and that he actually loves her dearly.
Yeah.
But maybe over time, he's just kind of has been, I guess, corrupted by his wealth. Potentially.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that.
I don't know how much we'll see of her, but she was fun to be there.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I loved her in this book. Absolutely great. I guess let's talk about their son Sigurd next.
I think you mean Siggy.
Siggy, yeah. I did like that running gag. But I think he seems somehow softer than his father, although he's trying to be like his father.
Right.
Like he definitely is aspiring to be as much as him as possible. He even learned to use the chains, like his father, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But his men respect him for being himself, and not for trying he assumes that he gains respect from kind of instilling fear in his subjects, but
yeah,
his men, the way they seem to express it is that they're just following him because of the other aspects of Sigurd's person, like I assume the softer sides that he expresses.
Yeah, it's like in anime portrayals of like gangs or whatnot. It's like you're a Aniki. We follow you because we respect you totally, not because we fear you. Kind of a situation,
Yeah.
Even if there is a tougher guy out there, it's like, don't pick on Aniki, don't kind of thing.
Yes.
Not quite there, but it is interesting to see that they almost got a chuckle at the fact like we don't fear you.
Yeah.
We just love hanging out with you, bro. Like,
right. Yeah, honestly, his guys seem really chill. And like I especially like that one guy when they were chasing after Leif, and they were like they kind of realized that they were kind of falling behind, and there was that one guy that was like just like a pretty quick comment, like one guy like, hey, I don't mind, I love sailing. It's like so nice, so chill.
Just sail with my bros. Like,
I just love being out here with y'all. Like,
I love you guys so much. Oh, dude, I love you too.
Yeah. Like, oh my god, I want to find a job that I just love as much as that guy loves his job.
I wonder if we'll get more on that. Just maybe this is not the real Sigurd.
Right.
However it's supposed.
Sigurd is what I would say.
Sigurd. Maybe we'll learn more about why they respect the guys so much versus kind of the tough guy that Sigurd is trying to be.
Right. Yeah. I'm really holding out hope for him, or for us to learn more about the real him, kind of, and for him to understand that it's okay to be his real self.
Right.
Kind of, and to not force himself to be like the tough guy like his father is.
That also makes you wonder if he would end up joining with Thorfinn in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Which would which would make it complicated with Gudrid, like how their marriage would work out and everything, you know?
True. That's true. Yeah.
Because I think that's another like big, or that is the big stopper to any sort of Thorfinn Gudrid ship, is that Gudrid is married right now. Um,
Yeah.
and obviously she doesn't have any feelings for Sigurd, but
And he doesn't have any feelings for her. Like,
yeah,
not really.
not really. I mean, lust probably, but not
Mm.
any real feelings.
Yeah.
But maybe something happens. Like, I'm not opposed to the fact that they do become a couple, like a legitimate couple. But I do think that she has more in common with Thorfinn at this point in time.
I definitely agree with that. But yeah, Sigurd's and his family's pride is on the line right now, and he has this. Well, he feels like he needs to return to Iceland with Gudrid, or not at all, kind of, and so I think. Well, he's taking it really seriously based on, well, his reaction that we saw when he thought that Gudrid was dead. He started crying. It's really serious to him. If he doesn't find her and if he can't return with her, then he's screwed. And in turn, his parents are probably kind of screwed too in some sense. But yeah, like it's a really big thing for him right now. And I think that might make him a little like kind of dangerous. The fact that he's so desperate. However,
yeah.
As I said, I still feel like there's potential for for good, or for a good change in him. I definitely think that possibility is strong.
I totally agree. I also think he tends to overreact, and is a bit simple-minded, but but also someone who could eventually listen to reason.
Right.
I mean, he would quickly trusted Thorfinn in the fact that Gudrid was dead.
Yeah.
And so maybe he won't be so trusting going forward, but I don't know. I wonder if he could eventually, kind of turn a new leaf in a way.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely not quite the conniver as his father is.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm hopeful for him.
That's all I have on Sigurd.
Gotcha. Then let's move on to Hild, a Christian hunter, supposedly Norwegian. Well, they met her on the Norwegian coast anyway. And she had a really badass introduction, I will say.
Yeah.
Shooting the bear through like the kettle holding thing. That was really cool. But yeah, like, I mean, we touched on her a little bit already, but to me, like the realization that Thorfinn was the one who killed her father, I think was pretty gut wrenching.
It's juicy backstory, and I hope that. Well, I mean, I'm pretty confident that it will get expanded upon in this next volume.
Yes, it's gotta. Yeah, I've actually looked at the volume cover of the next volume, and she's on it. It's her.
Ooh, cool.
So hopefully she'll play a major role there.
I think it would be great to have like another woman be a main character in this story. I think it'd be nice. I'm not saying like I need another shipping fuel kind of a situation, but I just think her character is pretty cool.
Yes, no, I agree completely. I would love for her to stick around. Plus, as you said before, she is an outcast, kind of. So
right.
If she doesn't really belong where she lives right now, she might as well come along with them, maybe. Maybe.
Absolutely.
So
or maybe on the way back. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Just somehow, please, more of her, please.
One line that I liked from her was "Evil bears are plagued by evil dreams."
Yeah, when she said that, oh my god, I got so nervous. Like, oh my god, because
definitely a hit at Thorfinn. Or, I mean, because I guess she must have heard them on the boat when she was spying on them.
I suppose, yeah.
Or maybe she just could tell that he was having nightmares or something. I don't know. Either way, it felt like a dig at him, and just. Maybe she could really help him get over those nightmares just by forgiving him in a way.
Right.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I hesitate to go any further as a ship because obviously she just introduced the character, but it's also it's a hurdle. It's a hurdle because he literally killed her father. So it's like, oh, father, don't worry, I married the man who killed you. It's like I don't know. I mean,
that is a rough
forgiveness
situation
and whatnot, but that's
yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, you're right. Absolutely. Moving on.
Yep.
let's talk a little bit about Ilva then. I only have one little thing, honestly, and it was really this sweet moment in the beginning where
Yeah.
she's well, she notices that Thorfinn has the same head shape as he did as a child, and that kind of serves as proof that she knows that it's her little brother. I thought that was just really wholesome.
The whole part was pretty wholesome and
Yeah,
was
yeah, the whole
great.
scene. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we don't get much after that, but hey,
Yeah.
at least she was back for a few chapters.
Right, and we know she's doing well.
Yeah.
That's good. That feels good.
She was really tall and
Yeah, yeah. She got the tallness from their
she's
father.
pretty muscular.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, yeah. I feel like she may have like inherited their father's kind of physique.
Yeah, I
Meanwhile,
think so.
Thorfinn has their mother's physique ish.
She's like, I got beauty and my father's physique. Like,
Yeah,
I got the good genes.
she's awesome. Yeah, man. I mean, honestly, I would have loved for her to come along on the journey. Like,
Yeah, it
that
would have been great.
would have been so good.
Would have been great.
But yeah. Now, at least it was good to see her more here. Let's talk a little bit about Helga, perhaps, if there's anything you got.
I do. I love the blessings she gives Thorfinn.
Yes.
You must welcome those seeking peace, and how supportive she is of that.
Yeah.
Like that's your calling. I love it. Yeah. I hope he's able to see her one last time. I guess every time he sees her, I'll hope it's not the last time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I totally agree, and that's basically all I wanted to say about her too. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
her being supportive of him was super sweet, of course, and definitely noteworthy. But it also wasn't necessarily. It wasn't as surprising. I think it made perfect sense for her to be supportive of that, based on her
Oh yeah.
backstory. With Thor's.
Sure.
But yeah, because ultimately, I think the whole pacifist ideology kind of originates from her, and like at the root, kind of, because Forrest didn't become a pacifist until he met her, and she has, as far as we've heard, she was never really for any type of violence. So I at least the way I'm interpreting it, like she is kind of the entire reason for this entire mindset and Thor's and Thorfinn now have kind of adapted.
Mm.
But yeah, the last character I have any notes on at all is Tula, Leif's sister.
Yeah, I do too.
And well, the only really it's just a little thing about how I appreciated her little character arc kind of throughout this. How she well started off being pretty harsh on Gudrid, but by the end she kind of regretted the way she had treated her, and she even encouraged her to go with the others on the ship. Was very sweet, I thought.
Yeah, I just like how she was a great big sister, and you know, all she was doing was just looking out for Gudrid. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, right. Even though Gudrid maybe not didn't no, she didn't appreciate it exactly, but she meant well.
Yeah, she absolutely meant well, and I think at some point she realizes that you know what, this is what she wants, this is what she needs.
Yeah, yeah,
And
right.
was able to let it go instead of being stubborn and like, don't you get back here?
Exactly, yeah, and that's big of her. That's
Yeah.
that's really good, and yeah, beautiful development on her. Even though it was brief, it was really nice. Any other characters?
I don't think I do.
I guess that brings us into the predictions.
But, now they're traveling east, there's much greater chance that we could see some other characters like Thorkel maybe. I don't know if they'll
Right.
ever go, where Thorkel is per se, like the Yoms area, but
Wherever. I mean, we don't even know if he's in Jomsburg, because
yeah.
we don't actually. I mean,
We don't know.
we
You're right.
speculated that he may have rejoined them, but we don't actually have reason necessarily to think that he did.
Uh-huh.
Last we saw, he was working for Knut, but he was dissatisfied with working for Knut. So
Right.
it's hard to say.
Did they go back to yelling and do they see Canute again? Like I don't know.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, they're going to pass through Denmark on their way. So who knows? Or at least, yeah, assuming they go the route that they are intending to go. They're passing through Denmark.
And it could be a situation where they get to Greece or Istanbul where they need to go, and then on the way back they end up picking up people.
Right, exactly. Yeah, could go either way. Yeah. I guess they don't necessarily have to take the intended route, although this seems to be best route. At least it's the route that they chose. So I guess that is the best route to get to Miklagard. But I think it would be cool to get to see that place, to see that city, Miklagard, which is Istanbul today. Because that's where that church is located, Hagia Sophia, that I mentioned several discussions back now, where there was a Viking who wrote some runes in the stone. Kind of Halfdan was here, although probably not the same Halfdan as in Vinland Saga, but some Viking named Halfdan was there, and he wrote that in runes into the bricks of that church in in the city that they're going to. So
I love it.
Yeah. It's it will be really a nice change of scenery to see, like Southern Europe and Eastern Europe, kind of as well, and also to see well, to be fair, we haven't had a lot of Viking ship action in the manga as a whole. The first chapter, of course, had the cool part where they carry the ships over land. And we've seen a little bit of sailing across the seas, kind of spread out across the series, although never any kind of longer periods of it. However, what seems to be ahead of us is, well, a lot of sailing. First across the seas here, getting to the European mainland, and once we get there, sailing along the rivers. Which was kind of a Viking ship speciality, because of the way they were built, they could sail through narrow streams and rivers. So that's something I'm just excited to see. Assuming everything goes according to plan.
Right.
So yeah, I'm just excited to see more sailing and river sailing and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I'm not gonna say much about. I'm not gonna say anything about what I might know about the historical stuff that I know. I'm gonna leave that be. But
sounds good.
Whenever a character that I know is introduced, I'm at least going to mention that they are.
That's fair.
A historical person, like Gudrid here.
I'm actually kind of glad Gudrid is a real person. And yeah, obviously Yukimura's gonna take it in his own creative direction, but
right.
I don't know. It kind of gives me happy feelings that. Someone a woman who in a traditionally male-dominated society is able to go out and explore and, follow her dreams. There's nothing wrong with being a wife, nothing wrong with raising a family and staying home and doing that, if you so desire. Right. But there's also nothing wrong with, becoming a sailor and exploring the world and, following your passions.
Yeah.
I think that's very admirable.
Absolutely. And I mean, especially, right, and as you said, especially at this time, for a woman to make a name for herself to the point where she's remembered in the history books.
Right.
Yes. In world history. That's amazing.
It's fascinating.
And she's one of them. One of the few, sadly, but yeah, she is one of them, and I think that makes it an amazing feat. Just because of how the world is structured with it's a man's world and all that. But yeah, I love the way she has been portrayed in the story so far, and I'm super excited to see the future of her. Well, I mean, everything really, but her especially now, since she might be my new favorite character.
All right. I mean, it was a pretty strong introduction.
Yes, I thought it really was. I was really taken by her. Any final words from you?
Nope. I'm excited. I think the story is great.
Hell yeah. Sweet. And yeah, very much looking forward to the continuation of this arc. If you enjoy our content, you can follow us on Twitter at Umami Manga, and it would be lovely if you'd like to support us by either rating our show on the podcast platforms or subscribing to our channel Umami Manga on YouTube. If you like this episode, please share it with anyone you think might enjoy it too. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time when we'll talk about volumes 17 and 18. Bye bye.
See you later. On a hot day, getting a glass of cold mugicha, it's so refreshing.
Nice.
So refreshing. Okay, to be fair, some people have compared it to the taste of cigarettes, but I
Really?
like burnt cigarettes. Like, I mean, it's not like I've eaten burnt cigarettes before or anything like that. But I don't know. Like, to me, it became, it's like an acquired taste, I guess you could say, but it's not, I don't think it's bad. Like, I remember taking my first drink, I was like, I mean, it's not something I crave. And then just over time, I was just like, yeah, you know what? I really enjoy this taste. So
Nice.
I recommend it, especially to people who enjoy tea.
Sweet.